Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Hello, Empathy Heroes. It is me, Known Wells, creator of You, Me, Empathy. Welcome. I am happy to have you here. This is episode 24, wherein I chat with my friend Jason Michael about mental health and getting older and being a parent. Jason is a parent. I am apparently not a parent. That was a dad joke, and I'm not a dad. Any hoozles. Jason and I talk about how we, as we get older, the mental health impacts of that. And Jason, in Jason's case, in being a parent of children, how that impacts our mental health. Jason also opens up about being the bullied, lonely, only English-speaking kid in a primary French-speaking part of Canada, and how that has informed him who he is today. I wanted to, before we get into the episode, I wanted to do a little admin work here. I wanted to thank Brittany Marie for this amazing You, Me, Empathy iTunes review. Brittany says, I've just recently started this podcast, and it is already my favorite mental health podcast. Woo! That woo was me, not Brittany, FYI. With guests from a diverse background of experiences and mental health struggles and an openness, You, Me, Empathy is creating a safe place for us all to understand our mental health, strengthen our own empathy, and help us be better humans. Known is doing an amazing thing here, and I can't wait to enjoy the entire journey. Oh, Brittany, that is amazing. Thank you so much for saying that. I am so happy to have you here, part of this You, Me, Empathy community. You're the best. You're the best. Thank you. And to everyone listening, you too can also get your iTunes review read on this show. Isn't that exciting? So please, we need more reviews. We need more ratings. So go to iTunes, search for You, Me, Empathy, and give me a 5-star rating and a little review there, and I'll read it on the show. Thank you. I also wanted to say thank you to some new Patreon supporters. Perrin, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Perrin. Perrine. I'm the worst, but you're the best. Thank you. Thank you to Adrian. Thank you to Jess. Thank you to Morgan. You guys are so great. Thank you for supporting the show. Don't feel like you have to continue supporting. I feel I have this ongoing weird guilt about this, but I love you guys. Thank you. You're the best. And let's get into episode 24 with my guest, Jason, on being a parent and getting older and how that impacts our mental health. I'm sure this is something a lot of us can relate to. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and enjoy. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our neuroses, our mental illnesses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being human. You, Me, Empathy is a safe place, a conversation between friends, a place to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am thrilled to be on another empathy journey on the topic of getting older, being an old man, and being a parent with film podcaster, Funko Pop figurine fanboy, and classically bearded Canadian, Jason. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Mr. Wells. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is going to be really fun.
I'm very excited to have you. Now, before we get into you and all that topic of getting older and being a parent, which I can relate to one of those things very much, we always kick off the show talking about, we just have a check-in, an emotional check-in. So how are you doing? How are you doing this week? How's your week going?
This week it's actually going really well. Things are a little overwhelming on the job front. However, that's I'm kind of used to it now a little bit. But the rest of it's fine. Slowly trying to get back into a little bit of decent shape. I'm having more fun with my kids recently. This week has been pretty cool too, trying to wake up in a better mood. My girlfriend's doing great as well. And my parents are going to be visiting this weekend, so I can't really complain about anything, to be honest. It's and the sun's shining, so that's even better.
Nice. What's the weather like there? I mean, what's the temp?
Oh boy, let me check just quickly. This morning when I woke up, it was minus 16, and that's Celsius for the Americans. Let's see now. It must have gone up, though. It should be around maybe minus 6 or 7. But
So,
we had
as,
like
as a
really
dumb American,
cold...
translate that into Fahrenheit for me.
Oh, man. You're asking a lot.
You don't have to do that. The listeners can do that.
Yeah, minus 8 right now, minus 3, sunshine and all that. So, it's close to 32, roughly, I think, around your temperature, 32.
Yeah, nice. Well, that sounds like a good week, and you're close with your parents?
Oh yeah, I'm actually kind of close with my parents. I wouldn't say that I'm pretty close. I've created a little bit of a distance just in terms of trying to be my own person. I used to rely on a lot of people's opinions before, including my parents, and it kind of held me back on certain things, and it prevented me from taking risks. So I am close in what I share with them. I enjoy them as people. They're very fun individuals, but I get along as much as I want to get along.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty darn healthy to me. We have to create a bit of distance from, the people that we were born into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Well, as for me, I'm my emotional check-in this week is a little different than yours. I lately, the listeners probably know a little bit of this, but I'm not always, but I seem to ask myself fairly frequently whether or not I am drinking too much. Okay. And I think I'm sort of hypersensitive to this because, people in my family have had drinking issues, and there's just some lusciousness going on in the world of the Wells family. And when I ask myself that, I don't know if I have any response. Sometimes the response is, yes, no, you're drinking too much. And other times the response is, no, you're not really, and it's fine, and you're okay, and you're healthy. And so I'm just dealing with that sensitivity again this week.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever had?
I don't know, man.
Have you ever struggled with that?
Oh, yeah, addiction in a way, without actually using a term that you're probably not going to use with regards to yourself. But yeah, definitely. Those are things that I struggle with every single day of my life. I wouldn't say necessarily with alcohol per se. I know that once it's in the house, my girlfriend and I pretty much tear through it in no time.
Yeah.
And we do feel guilty about it a little bit, but then after that, we just take it easy because budget-wise, we want to do other things.
Sure.
But I tend to kind of delve into like buying action figures. You mentioned Funkos. I'm not as crazy as most people. I just buy the ones that have some sort of nostalgic impact on how I'm feeling that day. And so Yeah, I do have those things. I used to smoke,
Uh-huh.
but I quit that after a while because I was so sick of just waking up in the morning and just retching my entire way to the car so I could drive to work. So I stopped that. Drugs have never been a problem for me, but I like to drink.
Yeah.
But my girlfriend has this uh, intense phobia of vomit. And
Oh.
so what I have to do is I have to put a cap on how much alcohol I'm going to have because I made the promise to her that she would never ever see me sick. And I've kept that promise after 5 years right now. I promised her whatever the situation, if ever I was like feeling ill, not from alcohol or anything like that, but just ill in general, but then add alcohol to it, I promised her I would never be sick, and I've kept that promise. And so, yeah. But
So you've
I don't know.
never
I
thrown
mean,
up in her presence?
no, I haven't thrown up in. Well, she was asleep, which is that was the one time, but it was only because I had tonsillitis. I wasn't feeling too well, so
Yeah.
everything that had gone down, I needed antibiotics and whatnot, and so it's the only time I was actually sick. But other than that, no. And she was sleeping. So
I'm
it doesn't
learning
count.
about you, Jason. You are a secret vomiter.
I am. Yes, I do that behind closed doors where no one can see. I keep close to the chest pretty much my
Yeah.
entire stuff. But I
Yeah,
don't know. How much do you consider drinking too much, man?
what's that?
How much do you consider drinking too much?
I don't know. I mean, the struggle sometimes that I have is that on one hand, or just one facet of it, is that Jessica doesn't really drink. And so
Oh,
by
okay.
comparison, I always feel like a bit of a lush.
Right.
But I'm not drinking that. I really stick to wine mostly. I drink a lot of
Right.
red wine, and also another facet is that I have an extremely high tolerance, so I'm never feeling sick or really even buzzed.
Yeah.
And so I'm having, a few glasses of wine a night. Sometimes I go a little bit more than that and have a bottle of wine, but I still
Yeah.
am not really feeling buzzed. So I'm a weirdo.
I don't think so, man. I think that it's because you're in great shape. You jog, you're constantly moving and stuff like that. So I mean, your body must process that stuff like it's nothing. If I have a bottle of wine, my girlfriend will be angry at me because I will have my face in the toilet.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But you're in much better shape, so I think that you just go through that much easier. That's my opinion. Obviously, I'm no scientist, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it could be
I don't say
that,
anything
but it
wrong with
also
that.
could be like even as I mean, this is really getting into some territory, but even as a kid, I started drinking at like 13, and
Yeah, I know that.
yeah, and even as
I'm
a
from a
kid and
small
like
town, so.
as a teenager, I had a super high tolerance and really never got sick. I mean, obviously, I've been sick before, taking it way too far, but so yeah, it could be a combination of just genetics and being fit or whatever.
That'd be awesome, man. You could turn that into a profit. You got to see the positive in this, sir.
Yeah,
It's like Superman.
right. I just set up like a little, next to the
Exactly.
kids' lemonade stand, just like, I will outdrink any of you.
Exactly. It's like Mary in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You just have to go up north someplace, maybe far away
Yes.
from Indiana Jones, and have just a drinking contest. Put
Oh my
everyone under the
gosh.
table.
I'm quitting my job today.
There we go.
Anyways, that's me. Just some just some sensitivity this week. I can't speak because I feel like I'm getting sick again, but I am not going to let that happen. Anyways, Jason, sir, you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about getting older, being a parent, and sort of that world in terms of mental health. But before we get into that, I wanted to get maybe understand a little bit of what your childhood was like. Maybe some seminal
okay.
moments from your childhood. Paint me a picture of your childhood. I'm very curious. I really just want to understand the type of childhood you have and how that maybe has contributed to who you are as a person today.
Oh, it definitely has, and it's something that I pick apart on a regular basis. because that's it. My New Year's resolution every year is to be a better person, and one of those reasons is because of the childhood that I had. Childhood wise, I mean, I come from a family that's actually kind of cool. Both my parents are really fun people. They're still together, which is kind of great. They've been together for, let's see, I'm going to be 38, so 39 years this year, which is fantastic. We're going to be celebrating their 40th next year, which is going to be insane. I have a younger sister as well. The upbringing itself was a little bit rough. I'm more of a mommy's boy than I am a daddy's boy. My father was a little bit more of a manual guy, a guy that liked to work, build things, a woodworker.
Mm-hmm.
He enjoyed, cars and whatnot, or tinkering with mechanics and whatnot. I'm not that guy, although I'm a huge Formula One fan. I take that from him. But yeah, so we never really got along much when I was a kid. We used to play catch when I started showing an interest in basketball. Dad got into that right away. Anything you want to do to connect with your son in any way. So my father would. It was a little bit more. It's always been a double-edged sword. But I'll start from the beginning. I was born in 1980 in Baie-Comeau, which is a small town in the province of Quebec. I think roughly with the time I was born, there were about 30,000 people. I think there are 23,000 people today, which is very, very small. I was an Anglophone in a Francophone community. But when my mother was a kid, the people that owned the businesses in that town were mostly Anglophones, people that moved there after the war, and kind of just opened up their little businesses. My grandfather was a shipboat captain during the war, and so he actually moved there to bring in boats filled with grain for Cargill. So because he could navigate the waters of the St. Lawrence River, he could actually bring in the huge container ships that were coming from Europe and whatnot, and he'd bring them into port. So my mom had a rough time growing up in Baie-Comeau because of the fact that she was an Anglophone, also in a Francophone community, but it wasn't as bad as the years that I was there. So growing up as an Anglophone in a French community, even if I did speak French as well as everybody else, you were always known as the English kid. And the English kid, well, given the fact that Quebec has always had a peculiar relationship with language, it was a pretty rough time. So bullied not only by the people in my neighborhood, but because I wasn't a popular kid at school, I used to get beat up pretty much regularly. There was one episode I remember being chased with this is in the neighborhood. It was a 2x4 with a nail in it. So
oh my God.
It was kind of, but I was beaten once. I was whipped. I don't know how many times with one of those jackets, the K-Ways. So I had zipper marks all over my body.
And this is by other classmates?
This wasn't at school per se, but in the neighborhood where I was living. At school, it was terrible too. I mean, it was one of those things where I remember I had just gotten a new snowsuit, and when I came home for lunch, my mom had noticed that like my pants had been torn and just completely destroyed. So yeah, it was a pretty rough time growing up in elementary school.
And do you attribute that to strictly you being an Anglophone in a Francophone community, or is there other sort of factors?
Yeah, well, for the neighborhood aspect, yes, that would be typical. It was, for lack of a better term, it was racism at this point.
Yeah.
Because of the relationship between languages of French and English in the province of Quebec, but especially in a small community like Baie-Comeau. At school, however, what I've come to notice in the school systems in the province of Quebec, especially with the Anglophone communities, is that there are cliques that form, and if your parents weren't part of those cliques when they were in school, because the teachers stay there for years, right? So I had teachers that my mom had. That's how small the communities are in English. Yeah, exactly. So when my mom had graduated high school, I don't remember what year, but she had me and she was 23 years old. And so the teachers that were there, let's say they were in their 30s. Well, when I started showing up at school, they were what? Maybe closer to 50, roughly, So, when I graduated, we were 115 in the entire school, and that's from kindergarten to Sec 5. So that was considered a big English school for a community like mine. At school, the reason why I wasn't necessarily popular wasn't because I was an Anglophone. It was simply because my mom was not popular. And so the teachers had preferential preferential treatment for other students whose parents they had gotten along with while their parents were there.
Wow.
And so, yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that actually happened here in Quebec City with my daughters when I sent them to the English school. I've since changed them to the French school because I was reliving what I had lived in the community where I grew up again. And I was like, there's no way I'm putting my daughters through what I went through. And so, it was a bit of a strange time, and it kind of fractures a little bit of the personality that I have today, which is like I have trouble with nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can consider myself Canadian or a Quebecer or anything like that. I just consider myself a person because even when I was part of an English community, when I was growing up in high school or in elementary school, I wasn't part of that community. I was always considered an outsider. And as soon as I walked into my neighborhood that was predominantly French, I was known as the Anglophone. So I never really fit in anywhere. So I still kind of carry that with me wherever I go. So that would pretty much be what I went through in terms of elementary school. What saved me a little bit in terms of like how I process information today was basketball. I started playing basketball when I was, I think it was in grade 4. I was in grade 4 and I wasn't necessarily any good, but when my father noticed that I had an interest, he actually built a basketball court, a half court in the backyard for me so that I could practice and so we could actually play together instead of playing catch. He would have wanted me to play hockey, obviously, growing up in the province of Quebec or in Canada. Hockey is the sport, the national sport.
Yeah.
But I'd never learned how to skate because I didn't like it. And so I still can't skate today. But I invested most of my time in basketball.
Skating's
so
hard.
we used to play. Oh man, it's weird. I don't understand it. Why you got such a vast space? Why would you want to not have like flat feet on something like that? I just don't get it. You're skating on knives. But I started playing basketball more regularly, and to the point where I would just spend hours and hours and hours just playing outside alone. I didn't really have any friends around. And by the time I got to high school, now we didn't have a team at my school because we were 11 in my grade. And so there weren't enough guys to make a basketball team. So I ended up having to play for the town, which meant that I had to go to the high school, the biggest high school in town, and enroll for the town to play basketball. So we were 3 English guys on a team of, I think it was 15 other French dudes, or Quebec dudes. Sorry, I don't want to insult.
Wait, what does that mean? You had to roll. I mean, you're at your school. You had just you had very few people, so you just had to go to another school to play.
Yeah, exactly.
So you actually moved, like, not just for the, you're there for classes as well now.
Oh, no, not at all. I would go to the my regular English classes during the day, and then after that, for practice around 6 p.m. Then my parents would drive me down to the other school, and
Gotcha.
we'd practice there.
Gotcha. And did you, in basketball, find, it sounds like you found a little bit of escape from, what you were feeling, the pressure from being sort of an outsider.
It was great, to be honest. That was the one thing collecting toys, watching movies and stuff like that were the things that really, really helped me kind of just, have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I actually got to the point where I was recruited 3 times, and it's an injury that prevented me from actually going any farther with a basketball career, because I was sitting down with colleges in Montreal and whatnot, and there were people from the United States also that had come to watch me play, which was great. And this is when I was 16 years old. I was in a tournament. Was it here in Quebec City? Yep, here in Quebec City. And there were 2 recruiters that had come to see me play, and I had no idea they had come to see me play. They had just heard, gotten wind that there was this English guy that was playing, and maybe I should be checked out. And it was great because, after the game, I had a pretty good game, to be honest. It was fun. And they just so happened to pop by at the right time. I was watching another game because we were playing that team the next day, and I wanted to make sure, and this is like, I'm 14 years old at this point. I'm just making sure that I could understand exactly how they played. And there's this man that just shows up and he says, "Hey, Jason." And I was like, "Yes." And so he gave me his business card and whatnot. And I was like, "Oh, well, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. I have no idea what the hell's going on. My mom told me not to speak to strangers. The fuck do you want?" But then I didn't make, you know, I didn't process the information. I was just like, okay, fine, that's kind of fun. Then I remember hearing after that two other parents of her other kids were furious that they had come to see me and not their kids. And so they tried to contact the dude. And he misplaced my information for a year. And then after that, I got a phone call in class during Sec 3. Not in class, sorry. The secretary came to knock on the door in the classroom where I was, and they said, "You have a phone call from this guy who wants to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." And he mentioned who he was, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember you." And he says, "Listen, I had lost your information. Do you mind giving me your home phone number so I can call your parents?" And I was like, "Sure." So I gave him the phone number. And after school, I had a ride with one of my friends, and I went to my basketball practice, and my father picked me up after. And it was great because when I walked in the door, both my parents started crying, and I was like, "The fuck's going on?" And they said, "Well, you've actually just been recruited to go play basketball for a high school in Quebec City." And she says, they said this is really insane, and we had no idea that, you know, people were actually watching you. My name was in the paper and whatnot. It was great.
So they were
and so
proud.
That's
They're proud of you?
Oh, yeah. That was my father was like, there's no way basketball has anything to do in the town where I was born. But at the same time, he was like, well, holy shit. Okay, there's actually something coming out of this.
Was it, would you say it was easier for your mom to show that pride, or was it a little harder for your dad maybe?
Oh, no, man. They were both ecstatic. I remember them both just kind of like, wow, what the fuck is this? This is great. That's a really good memory of mine of actually, you know, watching my father close the door behind me, see my mom there. And then my dad just goes right next to my mom, and they're like, they just grabbed me, hugged me, and they're like, "We can't believe we just got off the phone with this guy and he wants to, you know, bring you out to talk about this and that." And I was like, holy shit, this is great. But I mean, you're so young, you don't really understand what's going on.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that was fun. Then I left, I came to play here in Quebec City at St. Patrick's High School because the recruiter was the coach's brother. The coach was a really well-renowned coach. But it turned out that it was the only year that team had been classified as an A team as opposed to AA or AAA. And because they wanted to prepare for the year after. Now, my year here didn't go so well. People were making up stories about what I was doing and whatnot, and they held no weight. There was a rumor going around that I was taking drugs, and, you know, I was actually living with the coach's mother, who was insane. Yeah.
Why was that happening? Just because you weren't playing that well?
No, not at all. What had happened is that they didn't want to set me up in a home. The only thing that they had come up with was to put me with that woman. And this was during the O.J. Simpson trial. So she had like notes upon notes of what was going on in the O.J. Simpson trial. And she made up the story that I had burned her kitchen table.
Hold on, back up. So
it was a weird, yeah. I had a room there.
You had a room where?
At the coach's mother's apartment.
Why?
I have no clue, man. That was the best idea they came up with, I guess, for the time. They wanted to just have me in a place where I could be supervised.
Here I
am.
Were the other players getting that treatment?
No, not at all. I was the only one that was recruited that was actually coming from an outside city.
Okay.
To actually play in the town.
How did that feel? Was that strange? I mean, you can look back now and think it's strange, but at the time, how did you feel?
I felt weird about it because how are you supposed to integrate a team of people that actually have normal families around them?
Uh-huh.
And here I am trying to talk to a 70-year-old woman at the age of, I'm 16, you know, and so here I'm just listening to music in my room, pretty much doing my homework. And I had a curfew. I had to be home by 6 p.m. It was a very, very strange time. That lasted about a month.
Okay.
And then after that, I had made a girlfriend. I wasn't allowed to have a girlfriend. They had told me that they wanted me to focus on school and basketball, which was fine. But I mean, she was a good looking girl, man, and so it was a little difficult to say no. And she was great. I still think that she's a wonderful person. I haven't talked to her since we broke up when I was 17 years old, and I still hold a fond place in my heart as a good memory of the time I spent with that woman.
This whole thing is very bizarre to me because I
it is.
The whole recruiting thing and you staying, I would feel like I haven't experienced anything like that here necessarily. I mean, I got a soccer scholarship to college and things like that, but like,
nice.
I'd imagine like I would certainly feel super weird and also like an ongoing sense of, okay, I am different. I am an outsider.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. And it's just one of those recurring things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're taken out of your element, out of your family, your parents' home and whatnot. You're put in with a 70-year-old woman that you have nothing in common with. You've just met. And you're told to do a certain amount of things, which I was like, I'm fine with. I want to play basketball. That was fun, And I mean, I made friends quite quickly there. But because of the fact that I didn't necessarily have any friends in Baie-Comeau, it was very difficult for me to not be a little bit overwhelmed by the attention, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
Story gets weirder, man.
Please go on.
After a month, like she invented her story that I burned the table. This is her grandson who was on the basketball team who told me this, and I was like, I have no recollection of that at all. And he says that's because she said that I was drugged out of my mind, which was, and I was like, I can count on my fingers the amount of times that I've actually smoked weed. I've never done anything else, so I mean, I don't know where the hell these rumors are coming from.
So she just made up this thing that you were on drugs at 15?
Yeah. And she couldn't take it anymore. I had to leave, which is understandable. I mean, she's doing this as a to help out her sons.
Hold on. That's not understandable. I mean, to completely make up a lie about you.
Oh, no. I meant to want me out of there.
But why? I mean, like, why do you think she just made that up because you were different? Like, I don't understand the motivation there.
Oh, she's a crazy old lady, man.
Yeah.
She didn't want a young kid around. I mean, she'd been used to being alone and watching the OJ trial. And here I come and I disrupt her entire routine.
Yeah.
And she has to feed someone. It's like, get her a cat or a dog or something, man. Not another kid.
I guess so.
Yeah. But eventually what happened was I went to a basketball game. I had shown up late. This is how it happened. It went down. I remember this. This is the first time I actually kissed that girl that I just told you about.
Ooh.
And I showed up late. Yeah, I showed up late. I called her to say I was going to be late. And when I got there, the coach was there asking me where the hell I was. And I was like 45 minutes late. Not too late. It was 6:45. I was supposed to be home by 6. And he asked me where I was, and I says, well, I met this girl, she's really great, and and then he commented on whether or not she was great. Apparently these girls had a reputation, but this guy was a hardcore religious prick. So I mean, any girl that had kissed a guy before getting married was probably the devil.
Yeah, living in sin.
Exactly, kind of. And so just like that, I was being kicked out of a place, and I had to go to a basketball game because we were checking out another team because we're going to be playing them on. I think this was a Thursday. We were going to be playing them on the next Monday or Tuesday, and I met up with the girl at that place because we were going to watch the game together. And I said, I'm heading back home, and this is just after a month.
Uh-huh.
I don't have a place to stay. It turns out that there was a girl there whose parents were looking for someone for room and board. And so she said, hey, I could ask my parents if you could come. You guys could discuss a price and whatnot. And, because I really wanted to continue. This recruitment was, it's a golden opportunity to play basketball. It was fantastic, And so we made that work for a while. The only thing is that they were potentially going through a divorce. And so
who was?
They had the people that actually took me in.
Okay.
So you had this girl. I was going to school with her. She was a fun girl. Her mother was okay, but she was constantly being cheated on by her husband. And he was leaving the house, constantly going left and right. They had a cat that still had his balls and didn't like me, so he kept pissing on my bed.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, man, it was just the weirdest fucking time. My clothes would stay dirty for weeks because there was no wash. They couldn't afford soap or anything like that. My parents were paying $400 a month to keep me there, $100 a week to make them. Basically, when I think about it, it was just that this was the only way that she could keep afloat. Otherwise, she couldn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
So yeah, that lasted for a couple of months before my father started thinking that I was acting weird when I was coming home. But I mean, this had gone to my head. I was super happy and I was proud of myself and all that. Yeah, I was acting up a little bit, but I mean, what 15-year-old isn't?
Right.
And I just had my birthday in April. I was 16. And what happened was my father just got angry, contacted the coach, asked the coach what the fuck was wrong with me. And the coach said, well, Jason's been taking drugs. And that's the reason he's been acting out. And then my dad, I remember him showing up at the hotel because we were meeting that weekend. I was super happy to see him. He says, you little shit, you're taking drugs. This is the end of it. And I was like, there was no conversation to be had. I couldn't defend myself or anything like this. And my father harbored that idea of me as a druggie for such a long time. And I think he still believes it just a little bit because occasionally he'll say, those are the years we almost lost you. And I was like, I wasn't going anywhere, man. I didn't do anything.
The picture they're painting in the way they responding to you is like you're like burning down buildings and stealing cars.
Yeah,
like what were you doing?
Nothing. I was actually following the other teammates that I had. The irony of all this is that the coach's son was the school's drug dealer.
Oh, of course he was.
You know what I mean? And it's so weird because I remember watching Traffic and I was like, of course the Ivy League student's the guy,
Oh yeah,
but
the white privileged prick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just weird because that was the one thing he used to steal all the time and all that. I won't give any names because he has a very respectable job now. But it's just so weird because they it's like everything was pinned on me for a reason. I don't want to sound like I'm a victim or anything like that. Not at all. Well, I look back on this as with fond memories of confusion.
Yeah. That had to have been such a confusing time because you were obviously playing basketball. You were enjoying that. You were 15, 16. You are interested in girls. You want to do these things. And yet, it had to have felt a little bit, on one hand, you're sort of doing this thing, this basketball, you're playing basketball, and that's bringing you, all this immense joy. And then on the other hand, you're like getting this stuff from the coach and your parents, and that had to have felt very kind of jarring and confusing. I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
Oh, I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, I eventually moved back home. Obviously, the years following that were very difficult with my father. Because of the fact that he felt, I don't think that he was angry at me. I think he was angry at himself for letting me go so young. Because I remember my mom telling me that once I left, my father he'd cried for days.
Whoa!
And that's a flattering memory to have, and it kind of makes me tear up a little bit. But at the same time, when I come back, I think he was still angry that they didn't take care of me over there, and he was too blind to see that these fuckers weren't necessarily the best people for me to hang around.
So you felt a little guilt?
I think so. I think he does. Yeah. We're better today, But I think that this is where the tightening of the screws happened, where everything was constantly being watched, making sure that I was okay and whatnot. And I mean, I can't blame him for it. If you feel like you've dropped the ball on something, you're not going to let it happen again, you know?
Huh.
And so, I mean, it's great. It's kind of a good thing for me to be able to see it now as like dad was only trying to protect you, no matter how mean and how difficult it became. It was doing it out of protection. And then at the same time, I can't really fault him for that because I'm a parent now.
Mm-hmm. So the next couple of years, what kinds of things was he doing?
Oh shit, man, this is a weird time because I went back to playing basketball in Baie-Comeau and it was a significant difference with the level of playing that I had been used to. I ended up performing or outperforming everyone there, and I'm not a show off. I don't like doing that, but yeah, I mean, I went from being the guy that was playing on the bench most of the time to the guy that was just constantly starting games. And I used to beat my coaches at 3-point contests, you know, and they used to get angry at me and whatnot. And so it was a great time because, you know, that type of popularity is only something that, you know, I'd never thought that people would actually like me. But I mean, it's a double-edged sword. People started not liking me as well because I was getting a lot of attention, including parents that thought that I didn't deserve the attention and that their kids did.
That's the worst, recruited, isn't it?
It's a bit weird, to be honest. I never thought that parents would be that, I don't know.
Petty?
Petty was, I think petty's a good word, man. I think that I didn't think parents would want to squash another kid so that their kids would rise through the ranks, you know. But I remember I was recruited. We were going on tournaments, and I used to get business cards from people constantly, and it was so much fun to do that. But they were all French schools, and I'd only been to English schools, so I couldn't do that. And with dad, it would be more a question of like commenting on my appearance. You know, let's say I was listening to rap, so I had baggy pants and I used to wear little bandanas sometimes and all that. And then he would just make these snide remarks, you know, about, you know, how to present yourself to people and do all those things. But on the other hand, he used to encourage me. He used to bring me to the tournaments and he used to show up. And, you know, so it was very difficult to kind of understand how to please him as a person. And my mom is always defending me. My mom has never really said anything bad about me. She's always defended me. Like I said, a bit more of a mama's boy than a dad's boy. But dad, once he understood what he needed to do in terms of protect me, it became a little bit overwhelming for me to just comprehend. I was like, okay, dude, you got to let me breathe a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what you're expecting me to do. I didn't do those things. Well, you know, they're saying, and I was like, yeah, but I'm family, man.
Yeah. So, you know, he's in support of you playing basketball. That's a thing he understands, but he was having issues with your sort of expressing yourself and being a kid, being an individual, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. What other, I mean, other than sort of commenting on what you were wearing, which sounds amazing, you know, bandana, baggy pants, you sound real cool. What other kinds of things was he doing?
I think he was difficult to work with. He wanted to painting the fence. You know, taking the paint off the fence was always a fucking nightmare. Every goddamn summer.
I had to do that every summer too.
But the thing is I never did it well. You know, I was doing what he told me to do, but I wasn't doing it the way he wanted me to do. It was always a bit confusing to me. And my dad used to get into woodworking. He'd want to build things. Yeah. And he always wanted my help. And I'd gladly go help him, you know, no matter what he thinks. You know, he says, oh, your sister always wanted to help you, but you didn't. No, I wanted to help. I just didn't want to get yelled at, which is a very different concept for me.
Right.
You know, and so it's like, hold the fucking thing, and I'm like, I'm holding it, dude. I'm doing my best. This thing is twice my body weight. You're a black belt karate guy. You understand all these things. I don't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just a weird time, to be honest. But
it sounds like he just had a bit of difficulty in expressing his emotions in a healthy manner. Yeah. Oh,
and I do the same thing with my kids. That's the sad thing.
Well, let's get into that because I'm very curious about, I'm not a parent, and you are. What have you taken, let's use your dad as an example. What have you taken into your relationship with your kids that you maybe learned from, being a kid to your dad, or just the way your dad operated? How has that gone for you?
Oh, not well at
Yeah.
all. I the one thing, like, I'll combine what we were supposed to talk about, getting old and having kids. I had my first kid. I was 25 years old. I was with a person that I'd been with for 3 months, so no real relationship there. I was a very insecure individual. I still am, and I the only way I sought to get some sort of satisfaction was to prove myself to individuals. And I think that has to do with wanting to prove myself to my father after what happened with the basketball. I was like, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I didn't do any of these things, And so I still carry that with me quite a bit. And what happened was there was this girl that I thought was really hot. She seemed like fun, but she wasn't, into me at all. She actually didn't like me because of my attitude, which is understandable. And I said to myself, well, I'm going to make her like me. And she did for a while. But we had a kid 3 months after we met, which was, well, obviously it was a year, but because this isn't the 9 month, we didn't jump over that. But 3 months, people say it's an accident. You're like, well, it's not really an accident. I mean, we just played with fire caught.
Yeah.
And so I had my first daughter at 25. And by this point, I'm still trying to understand what happened, because I went from having a potential interesting career in basketball because of the recruiting, but then I busted my knee. And that was the end of it. I couldn't play anymore because the recruiters went away. I was like, oh, he's already damaged. So, at such a young age, they kind of just be like, oh, well, we can't really do anything with that. Even if I had gone through an operation or something like that, it wouldn't have been good, because it would have been a constant problem. If you get injuries a little bit later in your career, it's understandable. But if you get them young, then chances are you're going to carry those injuries moving forward.
Sure.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do within school. I tried going to school, tried studying film, but I didn't. I hated everyone there. I got kicked out because I tried to choke a teacher.
Wait.
I also
wait.
Yeah.
Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean? You tried to choke a teacher?
I didn't like him.
Okay.
And he was a 40-year-old man hitting on 20-year-old girls, and he was very condescending to me. And at one point, I just couldn't take it anymore. He was showing up late for class. He was drunk occasionally. And at one point, I was like, fuck this. And so he had said something mean to me because I wasn't necessarily paying attention. I'd rather read during his class because he had nothing really interesting to say. And so I walked up and I just grabbed him by the throat and pushed him against the chalkboard at the time. And they reported me and all that stuff. And then there was no police investigation or anything like that. I did have to talk to security there, and then I had to explain myself to counsel at the university and whatnot. So I got kicked out of that. I tried studying another thing, I think communications, and I thought that sucked. So I stopped that. I became a waiter for 5 years, and that's where I met my mother, my kid's mom. And so I was kind of stuck there. I wanted to make movies. I didn't know what to do, who to find. I'm in Quebec City. I don't know anyone in the industry. Waiting tables, it's not something I'm enjoying doing at all. I meet this girl, and then 9 months later, I'm a dad. After that 5-year period, and I have no education and no prospects, and so I'm still trying to figure out who the fuck I am. And now I have to raise someone on top of that, where you're like, how am I supposed to guide this individual when I can't even guide myself?
Yeah. And it's hard to really sort of come into your own being when you're sort of outwardly, trying to make everyone see who you are and prove to them that you're a good person.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd say that the first few years of being a parent were probably some of the worst I'd experienced in terms of like having an identity, but being a person in general.
Mm-hmm.
I became very selfish very fast because I still had to prove myself to this individual, this woman, to her family as well, because I remember her mother had made a comment at one point because of the fact that this is a bizarre story. After my first kid, the kid's mom decided that she wanted to start studying theater, but the course that they were giving wasn't here in Quebec City, it was in Montreal, and so we had to move.
And this is your first girlfriend you're talking about?
This is the kid's mom.
Okay.
So not my first girlfriend. There's a series of girls that led up to her. But this is the kid's mom. This is the first relationship I'll say that, actually had an impact on my life.
Got it.
And so she chose that course. Now, what happened is that I applied for unemployment insurance here because I had to move to Montreal to support my family, and my claim was denied. And so I was living in Montreal for, I think it was 4 or 5 months with no money. I couldn't find a job. My parents were paying for the apartment while she was going to school, and she was expecting me to work at night and take care of my daughter during the day so that she could go to school. And it was just a weird series of events that led her mother to say to her, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Why don't you just find a man that can take care of business?
Mm.
And I was like, oh man. So it was just constant hell.
Yeah.
And then she gets pregnant again because why not? And that's when I said to her, I don't want this one. This is nope. We're nope. Abortion time. We're getting rid of this one. And she said no. She said, listen, our family will be done. We won't have to have any more kids. We'll make it work. Everything should be fine.
Yeah.
And 7 months after my second daughter was born, she decided she was leaving. And so, and she was coming back to Quebec City. She had dropped her class. I was working at HMV at the time. I'd found a job. I had finally had to, talk to individuals about getting my unemployment insurance money. It turns out that I was allowed to have it. It's just that they deny 70% of the claims firsthand because in between the times that people can make their second claim, they actually found a job so they don't have to give out any money, which is fucking retarded. So then I was stuck in Montreal paying for an apartment. I didn't know what to do. And so I decided, well, fuck it. She's going back to school. She's moving to Quebec City. I didn't want to be that dad that says, I'm going to see my kids on weekends. I really wanted to take care of my daughters so that I wouldn't be that cliched individual, of the father that doesn't grow up. And so I decided, fuck it, I'll move to Quebec City also, and I'll put myself through school. And so at the age of 28... Yeah.
Real quick, where did that, you feeling like you didn't want to be that cliche, where do you think that came from, that frame of thinking?
Oh, movies, man.
Movies. Okay. Yeah.
Movies. That's the only reason why, man. Movies. It was one of those things that I remember seeing that trope in movies of the father that was always looked down upon for not being responsible. And it's just a funny thing that I was like, I am not going to be that trope in movies.
Yeah. I mean, they're always represented as such awful sort of scumbaggy losers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And romantic comedies most of the time, And so because the fact that my life had been pretty much, with her anyway, a cliche at that point of oh, he's the man that refuses to grow up. He's like a man child and whatnot. He still collects action figures and shit, So I decided, fuck it. You know what? I'll move back to Quebec City. I'll put myself through school. And at the age of 28, I decided to go back to university and just kind of study literature and film and all that stuff. So yeah,
awesome.
That's pretty much that'll give you the first 28 years of my life. There you go.
And So were you still together with this gal when she moved back and you moved back?
No. We had split up at that
You
point.
split up, okay.
She had my daughter, my youngest daughter was 7 months old. Sorry, when she decided that it was done.
Okay.
My daughter was born on May 5th, 2007, and on February, I think it was 18th or 19th of 2008. She told me, not my daughter, but the kid's mother, I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. And I was like, what do you mean? And so we were sleeping in separate rooms from the end of February to June when she decided to leave. June 1st, I spent an extra month in Montreal, where I met a guy who I consider my best friend now, a guy from France, a wonderful, wonderful gentleman called Gregory. And then I decided I'm moving back to Quebec also because I want to be close to the kids. And we used to split the weeks, 3 days, 3.5 days, 3.5 days that way. So I put myself through school. I was going to school part-time, working full-time, taking care of the kids when I had them and all that. So yeah, it's pretty intense, man. It was good formative years.
Yeah. And you were how old at that age? Or 28, you said? Around
28, yeah. I was 28 when that happened. That
must have been tough. How did that being a dad, a sort of a part-time dad in that sense, like how you said it was intense, like how did you do it?
To be honest, it's a bit of a blur. Yeah. There's not much that I remember from those days, not only because I didn't like myself as a person, but also because everything was going by so damn fast. I remember, this was a typical day for me when I had the kids. I used to get up at the daycare would open at 7:00, so that was good. So what I would do is I would get up around 5. I'd prepare the stuff that I needed to prepare during the day. Now my 7-month-old, which she's probably she's almost a year old at this point. Before I start school in September, she's about a year and 3 months old. So she's still wearing diapers. She's still taking, she has a little bit of milk here now and then. She still has her pacifier and whatnot. And so I literally she's sleeping in a crib. I have a baby with me at home and I have my other daughter. Now, one of them can walk, but she can't walk fast. So what I had to do is at 6:45 in the morning, I would have one, those baby backpacks?
Yeah.
I would have one on my back and I'd have a stroller with the other one in it. And I'd walk to the daycare, leave them there. Then I'd have to take the bus to work because I was working, to school. Because my class started at, I think it was 8:30 or 9. Anyway, 8:30, roughly around that time. And I was living a little bit far away from the university. So, and I had a class from, I think it was 8:30 to 11:30. Then after that, I would start work at 12, work from 12 to 6. And I'd have to make it back in time for the daycare to close at 6:45 and walk back home with my daughters at that point. So those were typical days for me, just trying to get through it,
Yeah.
So it was
pretty,
it was weird. Yeah, man. And daycare was always a nightmare because they kept changing and whatnot. But yeah, so there was 3 days where I was drinking heavily so I could forget my week. And there were 3 days that I was having lots of carrots because, we're sharing our spaghetti and puree.
Sure. So how long did that period last before you met your current girlfriend?
Oh, there was a girl in between, and she was a nightmare too. But that period lasted, I'd say, about a year and a half, roughly, before I met this other woman who I knew was a bad decision, and I went ahead with it anyway because of how insecure I am. I'm better now. But I spent the better part of 3 years with that individual. We moved into an apartment, and every red lights were going up. Don't do this, man. This is a terrible decision. And you're like, it'll work out. It'll work out. You need this to take a little bit of pressure off yourself, man. It'll be a second paycheck. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, pragmatically it looks good, but emotionally it feels damn stupid.
Yeah. And are you still, when you moved in with this gal, are you still you still have that deal with your previous gal with the kids?
Oh, no, we were at 1 week at that point.
1 week. Okay.
Yeah, 1 week. I really wanted to push it that way. It was better for them. And now we're actually recently we actually switched to 2 weeks, and I'm having so much more fun with them as a result.
Okay.
The routine kicks in a little bit later. Everyone gets a little bit more comfortable, and so we can actually like feel each other out every time we get together. And so it actually feels a little bit more familial, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And the girls are enjoying it a little bit as well.
So you have 2 girls currently.
Yeah.
And 2 girls from that first relationship.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha. And what, I don't know if you completely answered my initial question in that
what have I learned from my dad?
Yeah. That's what I want to
know. See, that's the thing. I think that I kind of repeated his patterns with my kids. And it's not to say that they're necessarily bad patterns, but they're more reflexes that I kind of went into. Sadly, I was a little bit how could I put it, impatient with my daughters. I would ask for one thing and I'd expect them to understand right away, without taking into consideration that they're like, now they're 12 and 10, but without taking into consideration, let's say they were 5 and 3. Like, why can't you figure this out? Well, because I'm 5, Dad. There was no way, like in my rational brain, like when I said I became selfish with time, because every time I have a little bit of time for myself, it's time where I'm like, what do I do now? I mean, I can actually spend time thinking about me. And whenever like my daughters used to impede on that time, I just got like furious. I was like, this is my time. But it's not their fault. It's actually my job to take care of them and make them feel okay. And I was pretty goddamn terrible at that, to be honest. And so I'm trying to retcon that right now. I know that there's a bit of damage that's been done, but I'm trying to make it a little bit better as I go along now. I try to get less angry and stuff like that. So I'm trying to look at what my dad did, about being angry, being impatient and all that. And I know where that comes from for him. I'm not going to get into his issues or whatever that comes from, but we've talked about it quite a bit, my father and I, and he's opened up about it a lot. But it was very difficult for me to not notice in the beginning that I was repeating the same pattern. And now my current girlfriend, who's a fucking angel, has kind of made me realize a lot of the things that I've been doing. And I'm like, oh man, how do you understand all this shit? And she says, well, I'm from the outside, I'm looking at all this and I see how your dad acts with you and all that. And I'm like, oh, well, and so she's slowly but surely, taming me and molding me into a model citizen in a sense, or a model parent. Isn't
that great when we have people in our lives that can have that sort of outsider perspective and the wisdom to say, hey, look, buddy, you're sort of going, you're operating in a way that doesn't seem right. Let's turn you around.
Yeah. The amount of patience that she has, Leslie's her name, I can name her, is unbelievable. I'm a very difficult individual to get along with. Once you know me well, I'm fine. But Leslie has done first of all, she's one of the most courageous, most bravest people I know. She's one of the brightest I know as well. And even though she has her own issues and difficulties, she'll always make time for me to understand what the hell it is I'm going through without getting angry and just accepting the fact that I just don't understand certain things. She'll try to help as much as she can. She'll take me all the way. And then she's like, okay, this is where you jump off and try to understand it for yourself. And the fun thing is that she's 10 years younger than I am. Which sounds like a midlife crisis, and I'm fine with it. But she's such a wonderful, wonderful human being. I mean, she's changed my life for the better, and yeah, I can't see myself without her. Yeah. So I'm very careful around her just to make sure that everything's going to be fine. So yeah,
that's
she's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the whole age thing. I feel like in our culture at times, I think it's gotten a little better, but in our culture, there's definitely been this weird sort of just getting caught up in the number, right? You know, and as we get older, and I'm sure you can attest to this now, like we learn that it's just a number, not a predictive measure, not an indication of value. It's just a thing that we are, and we're just a human trying to do what we can.
Definitely. But I mean, don't you find that there is a pressure that comes with that number sometimes? Because to me, I'm going to be 38 soon.
Yeah.
And I find myself looking back and thinking, like, as a young self, being, I thought I'd be wiser by this age, you know? And it's one of those things about getting older, having kids young, where I've realized, man, I have so much learning left to do. I wasn't expecting this at all.
I think, and
it's very much weird. It's a strange thing. Yeah,
it is a strange thing, but I think that, I mean, definitely, like I definitely at times think like, oh, like I should have written the next great American novel by now, but I haven't. It's still in progress, you know? I definitely get caught up in that bullshit from time to time, but I think what helps me is to remind myself that it is bullshit and reframe my perspective and thinking like, look, the fact that I do have boatloads of learning ahead of me is an exciting thing, as opposed to why am I not as smart as this other person in my community or whatever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a good way to look at it. I wish I could see it that way. I'm not saying that I want to be this all-seeing being that like have the answer for everything. It's just that when you have my daughters staring at me, asking me for why are people like this, Dad? And you can just only like stare down and say, you know what? I have no idea. It's a very much humbling thing, because I remember looking up to my parents and thinking, shit, they have all the answers. I know that they don't now.
Right.
Because I'm living it. And I'm pretty sure they felt exactly the same when they were my age. It was like, well, we'll say this, but you know, we can't really say, you know, whatever the hell it is, you know, but it gets a little bit intimidating, because you have my daughters have this world in front of them, and you want to give them just the right amount of information for them to be able to make up their own minds.
Right.
But then after that, you realize, I don't even know how I feel about this. And that's confusing.
It is, but you know, it's also an opportunity to share. I mean, obviously I'm not a parent, but like I've been in scenarios like this. I think it's an opportunity to share the fact that we can't know everything, and to relinquish a little bit of that control. Because like I know that, you know, as a kid growing up with my father, like there was a lot of like trying to control there. And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that I really don't have much control over things. And I don't know why people do certain things. Like there's just a lot of mystery. And I think allowing ourselves to be okay with that mystery and not trying to control every facet of it, I think is a healthier mode of living.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, I'm slowly working my way there, because I feel like the last 10 years of my life have been out of control, and I've been trying to slowly, you know, just kind of stop the Ferris wheel from spinning and spinning and spinning, you know, because I kind of want to get off the ride a little bit. I'm just kind of like, God, it's time for me to just chill, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's just the amount of control that I wish that I did have, you know. So slowly but surely the Ferris wheel is just slowing down a little bit. And I understand your point in just letting go and just accepting it. But man, it's so much easier said than done for me, because that's, my girlfriend says it. She says, just let go. Fuck, just sit down, just chill, grab a book, and I'm like, no, must do this, there's the list of things, must have, you know, and feeling guilty for just watching a fucking basketball game when I should be grading papers one night. You know, it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh God, it's just not working. I need more time in a day.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think you'll get there. I think we all have our different paths, and you sort of took a different sort of path at one point that was very different than mine, and in that experience, you learned a lot of things that I haven't learned. So thinking of it that way, I think, is good. What I want to understand from you, Jason, is, you had intimated earlier on in our conversation that, you can't really care for others if you can't care for yourself. How is that going for you as a just as a human, as a almost 38-year-old, as a dad, like how is the self-care and the sort of self-esteem going for you?
It's a daily struggle, to be honest. It's something that I really, really have difficulty with. I am slowly accepting certain terminology. I'll put it that way. And I have to say that a lot of it has to do with the fact that Leslie has been very patient with me. She's been, explaining, she's been more of a mother than I have been a father, which is fucked up when I think about it, and she'd disagree with that 100%. However, from my perspective, that's the way I see it. I remember having I don't get along with parents, I'll put it this way, because all they talk about is their kids. And I don't give a shit about other people's kids. I really don't. I like people. I like talking to people most of the time. I like you, for example. I like talking to you.
Oh, but I like you too, buddy.
In my daily life, I don't have that many people that I enjoy talking to, especially in the community where I live. I'm just like, people just complaining all the time. And I know that right now I'm complaining that they're complaining, but it doesn't count. I remember I still feel a little bit this way. I don't identify as a father, but I am a father, but that's only a part of who I am. I'm not the type of parent that invests all of his time in making sure that his kids are going to be okay. I do, however, I have started taking that role a little bit more seriously now. Trying to spend a little bit more quality time because I kind of just let things go a little bit. The opposite of reading those books that they say you should read. I'm like, fuck you. Cavemen used to be able to have kids and it was fine. Yeah. So I'm a modern caveman when it comes to raising kids. And so I'm slowly but surely trying to bring all these facets of my personality together, as opposed to having them in these splintered sections where I'm a teacher, I'm a film lover, I'm a father, I'm a boyfriend, I'm a son. And I'm starting to realize it's okay if it all goes into the same package, because you don't necessarily have to change your personality according to who you're talking to. And that was one of the main things that I've been kind of trying to make myself understand, that it's okay for other people to label you as a certain type of person, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with it.
Well, we need to do that, right? Like, even if it is something we don't agree with or whatever, like when we as humans interpret the data, which is humans ahead of us, we need to put them into certain boxes, right? That's just how we process information, It's not like a personal thing.
I think it just goes back to when I was a kid, man. I mean, I've broken this apart so many times. The idea that I didn't necessarily fit in somewhere. Mm-hmm. I still try to kind of split those things up, and I'm like, no, you can't really put a label on me. I'm neither of those things. I'm me. I'm a person. Treat me as a person. But now I need to be an example as well. And so far, I feel like I haven't been necessarily a good example for my kids. And so now I'm trying my best to kind of, like I said, go back and kind of just, pave the road that I kind of left a little bit with, on gravel in certain parts. It's supposed to be paved here. They're supposed to have a smooth ride until they make it out. I wasn't supposed to make their lives a little bit more difficult. And I try to make up for it as much as I can, like, oh, are you going to be angry at this? No, I'm sorry I was angry at that. I wasn't supposed to be angry at that. You can talk to me, So I'm taking my job as a dad a little bit more seriously. But I mean, I think that's age playing into it and realizing, you know what, you just took the shit all too seriously, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what counts is making sure that these people are okay, So
Yeah. What do you, as a dad, what do you want to leave with your kids? Like, what impression of you do you want them to have?
Oh boy. I think that if ever one of my daughters were to speak at my eulogy, I think that I would love it if one of them would say he was a fun asshole.
Okay. Okay.
Just because it would encapsulate a little bit of how I am. I'm a person that enjoys fun, but I can be a prick occasionally. Very hard-headed, pig-headed individual. You should ask Lee how I am. And whenever he sends me an image for the show, I'll send him back like a bunch of things, and he'll be like, "Oh Christ, why can't I just get it right the first time, fucker?"
So you hold on to that as a pride thing.
Being a fun asshole?
I mean, the sort of curmudgeon, the sort of like, fuck you, punk rock, aspect of your personality. You hold on to that.
I use it as a facade because I do care deep down. And it's something that I've grown accustomed to, is just putting on that facade and walking out. But I mean, I am a vulnerable individual. I'm usually quite shy. I'll say shocking things, or just to get rid of people, just so that they can stop talking to me, because I have no interest in what they have to say. But I don't wear it as a badge of pride. It's actually somewhat shameful, to be honest, because I never really project myself as who I am. I'm doing my best now to do it. I'm a little bit more smiley, a little bit more jovial, because I've realized after a while that, the majority of people want to have a good time. Man, if you greet them with a frown, they're not, right off the bat, you're sending the wrong signal. And I've learned that as being a teacher. I remember I used to start my classes like after the summer break. I was like, okay, well, it's time to get back to business, right? If that's the first thing you hear walking into class, you start regretting the fact that you didn't do more in your summer.
Right.
You're not encouraged by what you're actually going to be doing during the semester. And so I had to learn that the hard way, because I'm the one who has to instill the mood of the entire class for the 15-week period I'm going to be with these individuals. Right. And so I started doing that at home as well. I'm whenever my daughters wake up, cheery me. You know what I mean? I try to be as smiley as I can. But I understand that for my daughters, the idea, like, he was a fun asshole, it would be from the fact that for the first part of their lives, they would have known me as this, like you said, curmudgeon, grumpy fuck. But he ended up being fun after all.
Okay. Got it. I like it. I dig it. It's funny that you said the thing about, you as a teacher, and you having to sort of put on the positivity and put on the smile and stuff. And that's something that I've struggled with from time to time. I remember, in situations where I feel uncomfortable, or I'm an introvert, so I struggle sometimes in groups of people, or, at previous jobs where I wasn't happy. Like, Jessica always told me that, like, man, you are wearing your emotion on your face.
Yeah.
And
Leslie used to say the same thing.
Yeah. And I still struggle with that. And I see the value in sort of presenting yourself a certain way sometimes, but sometimes it's just hard, and you just wanna wear your emotions on your sleeve,
I completely agree with you, man. This brings me back to, I remember the kid's mother used to wake up and she was in a bad mood every fucking morning and she used to tell me, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. And I was like, I don't want to live that fucking life. What the hell? No way. I said, waking up in a bad mood is a choice. that you make every morning that you're on this planet, if you wake up in a bad mood, you're choosing to be in a bad mood and you're choosing to fuck with the people that are in your life. You can not feel good. That's fine. I understand that you had a shitty night's sleep and all that stuff, but that's yours. It has nothing to do with the people in your immediate environment. And I remember telling her, now, don't ever say that to me again, because I will walk away. And I should have, and I didn't. But I wake up every morning in a great mood, and I try my best to keep that there all day now, because you never know. You never, just a smile to someone who's having a shitty day might change that entire person's day around. And it's not my responsibility, obviously, to do that, but it's kind of fun to just be able to say that, maybe I had an impact or something like that. It's the small victories that I look for in my daily life now, where I'm like, you know what, if I walk into class and I smile and I tell tell a good joke and we get going, and out of the 35 students, 3 of them had fun, well, I won. Those 3 will go on to do something cool. It should be like the rest of their day is uphill from there.
That's great. I love that perspective, and I love the word impact, because I've been thinking about that more and more over the last few years, and just the other day I was reading, I finished, a couple weeks ago, I finished this book called Everything is Horrible and Wonderful, and it's a memoir by Stephanie Wittels-Wachs, who's the sister of Harris Wittels.
Okay.
Who was a writer, producer on Parks and Recreation, and died at the age of 30 of a heroin overdose. Really, super sad and tragic. But the book, made me feel like I want to, like when I die, like I want people to feel loss, that I actually had an impact on the world and made some headway in terms of putting more positivity and empathy and compassion out into the world. And, it's weird that like a story like that, such a tragic story, but like he was, even though he was troubled and was a drug addict, he put a lot of amazing things out into the world and made a huge impact on the people in his life. That's a thing I think about all the time.
Really? Don't you think that puts a lot of pressure on yourself and other people?
No, not at all. I just, I mean, I shouldn't say no, not at all. I think sometimes it can, but I've been a lot better, since going to therapy and stuff and doing a lot of work on my own, like a lot better at just recognizing that I have one day at a time, and some days are struggles, but some days I can do it very well, and that's okay too. There's ups and downs.
And that makes complete sense. I mean, you can't be even keel, for years and years and years. It would just be weird. I mean, it would make life bland, man.
Right.
And so,
right.
I don't know. I don't know. Death is something that I fear a lot.
Is it?
And the reason for that is, oh yeah, man.
Let's get into
terrified. That. Sure, man. I am terrified of croaking. I have panic attacks constantly that I always think are heart attacks. Every time there's something in my chest that feels weird, I'm like, the fuck's going on? Am I going to collapse in front of my students? Are my kids going to see me just croak? I have to send a text message to my girlfriend. I'm not feeling well. And it's just, I don't know, man. I always feel like I haven't really just done everything that I'm still just kind of getting organized.
Yeah.
Then I'll live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
that makes sense.
Like it's just weird. I want to skip the organization process and just start living eventually. And I'm just afraid that sometimes I'll be caught off guard, and then death will just be there, and I'll be like, motherfucker, I was this close to being organized.
Yeah. No, I get that. Like you've had a early on, you had to do some quote unquote adult stuff, right? Where you didn't have time for yourself, or you didn't have time to like really focus on yourself and grow and learn in the way that you wanted to. And now, as an old fart, You just kidding. I'm basically your age. You're having a bit more of that, and so that I think that makes sense to me. I don't think about death at all, and I don't fear it at all. Okay. And the strange thing is, like, I was raised like super religious, and I believed it for sure as a kid and stuff. And during that period, I feared death, which is a very strange thing because I'm being told that I'm going to be living forever, in heaven, right? And but I still fear death because maybe there was the sort of hell angle. But now, as a heathen, as an atheist, I don't fear death at all.
I don't know, man. I how can I put it? Sometimes I catch myself like thinking, at night, I remember telling my girlfriend this, and I don't consider myself to be, I don't throw compliments at myself at all. I do, however, sometimes think that I wish that I was dumber, just because I catch myself at night sleeping and then waking up and then thinking I am floating on a ball in the middle of nowhere and anything can happen at any moment and I have no control over any of this. And that is terrifying. And I'll start like going into this panic attack of like, just what could I do to prevent a meteor from crashing into the earth? And it's just dumb as shit that you would think about in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then you wake up in the morning and you read about politics and you're like, why are they fighting again? I don't get it. Don't they realize that that's not, they don't have a choice. They have, we decide and we don't want any of this. Why are they fighting? And it just becomes so arbitrary, man. And it terrifies me that on top of that, I have to deal with my own life, living it, as if nothing's really happening. So it's a constant con. I'm under the impression I have to trick myself every day and give meaning to certain things. And I'm like, oh no, it's useless because I won't even know when I croak. My eyes will I'll fall asleep. I won't even know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I relate to that a bit. I mean, I think what helps me is to not put so much meaning into things. Like what helps me is I just say that this, you said it yourself, this pale blue dot that we're living on, it's random happenstance. It's random awful tragedies and natural disasters. And also, it's replete with the darkest of darks and the brightest of brights. And me recognizing that I have A, no control over any of it, and B, that it's all a little absurd. That helps. That kind of brings me down to a place where I can be a bit more sort of calm and present when I'm sort of facing those more existential crises.
Oh, you're lucky, man. I don't know. I think that when like getting older becomes a bit of a burden, although I do enjoy it. I enjoy getting older.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I would. I know that it's like we live in a society now that has an emphasis on youth and whatnot, and I'm enjoying being more and more confused about shit. Because it gives me a reason to kind of just continue exploring what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I how can I put it? It just becomes so fascinating to see how fast everything moves as you get older.
Sure.
I hadn't realized that at all. I mean, I remember like when I was a kid, summer would last forever. You didn't have to go back to school.
Best
and now
time
you
ever.
Just count the damn days and you're like, fuck, I go back to work at 2 months or a month or something like that. And the kids, for them, it's all great, and you have to keep that illusion alive for them because you want them to live in this innocence for such a long time and you want to influence it in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm trying to catch up with that. But I'm actually eager to get to 50.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's because most my loans and bursaries are going to be paid, which is really great. I'll be done paying my education, which is fun.
Awesome.
And I'll be able to kind of just live and do my other things, but I'm not afraid of getting older, but death is something that I can't comprehend. I remember spoiler anyway. I remember sitting through The Last Jedi and watching. Did you see the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
I loved it.
Okay, cool. Look, well, thank you. Finally, someone's cool.
I was wondering when you were going to bring Star Wars up.
Oh well, I'm bringing it up. And so when I saw Luke go at the end of the film, I mean, I was a goddamn wreck.
Yeah.
And I was like, look at this. This is Luke goes. My parents eventually are going to go. I'm not ready for any of that because I feel like so much of what I've done so far has just been trying to keep up that I haven't necessarily had the time to really embrace everything or everyone that I really means something to me. And so, yeah, it's just been a very awkward journey so far. Now that the dust is starting to settle, I do want to do my best, for the years to come to like really show my kids that I love them. Really show my parents that they did a great job. I don't consider myself to be a bad person, and it's kind of the result of what they've been able to achieve as parents. I love them so much for that. They're good people. You know what I mean? I've never seen, people as nice as they are when it comes to things. They're proud too. I love the fact that my parents are proud of what they've achieved. And that's really good to have that as an example. It's like, look, we didn't, my parents, my mom put herself through a university certificate. I think my dad has a Sec 5, but my dad always loved his job. You know what I mean? And that's something to aspire to. You're looking to your father as like, oh, well, he's a great example of a guy that really enjoyed what he did. And when he retired, he was actually kind of sad about it because he would have loved to continue doing that.
Right.
And that's something to look up to. And I feel like being trapped in between, a generation you look up to and the generation that's looking up to you is one of those pressures that I have right now where I'm trying to figure out, okay, what message do I send? And it's kind of exciting and terrifying at the same time.
I love that. I love that. I love what you said about your parents just there. I get it. I mean, I can't fully relate because I don't have kids, but I think there's some universal things that we all can do, like, one, sort of coming to terms with the fact that children aren't responsible for our parents' struggles or difficulties.
Right.
Embracing love and empathy and like just unbridled kindness and acceptance, I think, like, to our kids and to our, parents, if that makes sense, open. I think a huge one is just open, healthy, non-judgmental communication is a good one. And just like putting positive energy back out into the world and just focusing on what you can do one day at a time,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that brings me back to what you asked me a little bit earlier, if I did learn something from my dad. And it just kind of sparked into my head, and it took my girlfriend to help me with that. One of the things that I wish my dad had done when I was a kid was listen more, as opposed to explain shit. And that's the thing I do with my kids. Mm-hmm. I explain shit the same as he did, but I'm slowly starting to listen. And so that's where I'm kind of shifting a little bit. The retconning I was talking about is like, my girlfriend told me, they don't want your opinion. They want to feel understood. And that's probably one of the things that I didn't get. And I was like, oh shit, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why couldn't I give them what I've always wanted? And it's just to be understood. No matter what, even in elementary school, being that outsider, that guy that didn't fit in, all I wanted was to fit in and be understood for who I was. Mm-hmm. And it's still something that I kind of deal with today. I'm always thinking, people don't understand me, and I get angry at it. And at the same time, I turn to my kids and I repeat the same fucking pattern. But, that's the one thing that I'm slowly correcting now. It took this long ass conversation to come to that conclusion. But
That's amazing. I love that so much. Like, just being understood and listening is such an amazing trait to have and to sort of foster in ourselves. I know that just from doing this podcast, like when I'm really listening and really listening to my guests, like the conversation is just so much richer, and it gives the person opportunity to say, hey, I am being heard, I am being seen, I am being recognized for, what I'm saying. And that's a huge part of how we sort of develop, healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you tend to talk a lot more on your podcast? Because I seem to have taken up most of your time.
Oh, no, I sometimes I do. It really depends on the guest, but really it's about you guys. It's about your stories and so yeah.
Cool.
How are you feeling? Do you wanna start wrapping it up and get into some empathy heroes?
Oh, sure, man. I don't mind. We still got plenty of time. It's nice out here. I'm chilling. I got my bottle of water.
Nice.
People are sending me text messages. I don't have to answer. It's great.
Good. Well, let's transition into empathy heroes. This is the section of the show where we just talk about someone in our lives, either real or fictional, or even someone we've never met that may be dead or alive. Just someone who is sort of doing the good work in terms of embracing empathy and putting empathy out into the world. So to you, Jason, who is your empathy hero?
My empathy hero is actually my daughter, Mia, my eldest daughter. She's 12 years old, and you couldn't find a kinder heart on this planet. And I'm not saying that as a dad. I'm saying that as a guy that's looking from the outside.
Yeah.
There's this little girl who desperately wants to be loved. And like, I'm going through life with her right now, and I'm revisiting every single fucking thing that I went through. The fact that she doesn't necessarily have good friends, that she's picked on constantly, she's a bit of an outsider and all that. And I'm having the same relationship I had with my father with her, where I'm trying to explain things as opposed to listen. But my daughter is probably like just the kindest individual that you'll meet, so full of life. And it's just sad sometimes to see that the outside world hasn't embraced her a little bit more.
Yeah.
As a result of that, she's willing to listen. She'll give you her time. But now she's becoming a little bit insecure. Why don't people listen to me? Why do they feel that way about me? Am I too intense? She's a little bit of a control freak when it comes to that. You should do this. You should try that, but it's out of not a feeling of wanting control, but just contributing to people's lives in a meaningful way. And I think that is amazing. I would love to have that outlook on individuals. And I have to keep reminding her, baby, no matter how much you think you're doing good, people suck. Just don't suck like them. And so I just try to keep her morale up a little bit more every single day, and we just started a little show together. Mia and Jason drive to school, where she is able to share a little bit more of, she's sharing a little bit more of how she feels as a person and all that stuff. We did one on Valentine's Day where she was like, I don't really have a Valentine. People don't really talk to me at school and all that, and then she wanted me to take her out for sushi. So we went out, just on a date, just dad and daughter. And we had a great time, but it's not the same coming from a parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She knows that she has me. And it would be, I'm not like, the evil stepmother in Cinderella where I'm just going to be constantly like, making her sleep in the attic or some shit. I'm actually going to take care of her all the time.
Yeah.
So it's biased. She doesn't actually, she's like, well, you don't count. I know that I have your love. I want other people to know me. And I think that I hope anyway, that the level of empathy she has, not only for people, but for kids. She loves taking care of kids. She loves animals. She loves being at the heart of a party and just making people laugh. She just loves that attention, and she loves giving and giving and giving, and she'd give anything. And I think that I want to preserve that innocence as much as I can, because that can go south anytime. And I can see it happening right now. Just the fact that she started high school, I'm like, oh man, what, these fucking pricks, they're really just destroying this beautiful little individual. And like I said, I'm not saying that as a dad. I think most parents are like, my kids are the best. No, your kids are not the best. Neither are mine. But I can look at her as a person and say, wow, everyone should aspire to be as kind-hearted as this individual is. And if we all were, man, the planet would be such a better fucking place. And so that's it. She definitely is my empathy hero. I aspire to be as kind as my daughter is. And every day I spend time with her, I learn more about myself, who I am. And I try to take notes, as much as I try to exchange information with her, that first hug in the morning and that last hug before she goes to bed at night means the world to me.
That's beautiful. I love it. She sounds amazing. And thanks for sharing that. And I just wanted to say that, I don't think it's a given that parents, are going to care for or protect or love their children, because it's not always the case, sadly.
Right.
And so, I wanted to give you that sort of validation that you make the choice to, and that is a choice, and that's not always a given. Not every child has that. Not every parent makes that choice. So that sounds like a beautiful relationship, and one that will be fruitful for many, many years.
Oh, hopefully, man. Like I said, like the best I can do right now is just kind of step back a little bit and try not to influence too much.
Yeah.
Just be there with a safety net. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
but I mean, most of them, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But I mean, like my family itself, even my daughter, Allie, and my girlfriend, Leslie, those people, those are the ones that I surround myself with, and it's a choice, I mean, like you said, you could be a parent that just decides to fuck off. You don't have to take care of your kid. There's no law anywhere that says that you have to.
Right.
You could just give them away if you wanted to at one point.
Right.
It's not well seen, but at the same time, I've chosen to stick around with these people because they make me a better person. So those are the people that I consider my empathy heroes, if you will. But I have a special place in my heart specifically for Mia because she's just on another level. Yeah,
she sounds like it. Well, my empathy hero this week is a repeat, and I'm repeating him because there's something coming out that I'm excited about. So my empathy hero this week is Mr. Rogers. I realize, I know. I realize I've already called him out, but he is just so damn full of sweet kindness and beauty, and I just had to. And I also wanted to just mention that there's a documentary coming out in June, I think, of this year, called "Won't You Be My Neighbor?" And I am very excited. I watched the trailer. I think by the time this episode comes out, it might be out already, but it's I was crying just watching the trailer. So it's definitely one that's gonna make me cry. But he's just it's amazing how huge of a heart that guy had, and I try to aspire to be more like him every day.
Yeah, man, that's a good call. I love Mr. Rogers, and when I saw that they were making a documentary, I was like, oh shit! And they even have a Funko Pop coming out too. I'm gonna pick that one up because he has a huge influence on me.
Yeah,
I love him. I'm hoping they make a documentary on Mr. Dress Up as well. I used to love that.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Mr. Rogers definitely a good call.
For sure. Well, Jason, before we go, do you want to promote anything? Do you want to maybe tell the listeners where they can connect with you online? Anything like that?
I could plug the show, but it's completely different to yours. We actually talk about film. We go. It's called the Atlantic Screen Connection Podcast, and you can find us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or whatever, at Atlantic SC on Twitter. The show speaks for itself. We're a little bit off social media now because it's very difficult to talk to people there, to have meaningful exchanges, to be honest. But yeah, we're bordering on 50 episodes now, so there's a whole back catalog for you guys to check out. We're going to be putting out a show on Silence of the Lambs if you guys are interested in any of that stuff. But yeah, we don't necessarily review films, but we actually do take a scholarly approach to most of the stuff. Obviously not as in-depth on other episodes, but we try to bring an approach that's a little bit more analytical as opposed to just reviewing movies themselves. So yeah, I do that with Lee Brady, Irishman, who I met online, one of the few people that I can talk to online. And yeah, we do it on a bi-weekly basis. So once every 2 weeks. And we had Known on, if you guys are curious to come see what it sounds like when he's talking about movies. That episode should be out by the time this episode comes out of You, Me, Empathy. So we'd be glad for any of your feedback if you're interested in movies. And yeah, send me feedback too at Jason B. Michael on Twitter. I'd be happy to exchange with any of you empathetic people out there.
Yeah, guys, Atlantic Screen Connection is a really one of the best film podcasts out there. Jason is being humble in that, like, not only do they take a scholarly approach, it's like some of the most insightful commentary on film that I've really heard, and I love it. So I think you'll love it too. Definitely go check it out. And then for me, You, Me, Empathy on Twitter and Instagram at You, Me, Empathy. YouMeEmpathy.com is where you go for show notes and stuff like that. And we're on Patreon, and so go check us out there where you can support the show on an ongoing basis. That's fun. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, Jason, sir, I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate you being a guest on You, Me, Empathy.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Like I said, you're one of my favorite people online. I'm actually glad we got to talk. You and Jessica are people that I really, really hope to meet face-to-face one day.
I hope so too. Yeah. That would be fun.
Yep, go out for one of those wines.
Yes.
So we can bookend this episode with a glass of wine. It'd be great.
Yeah. And as always, for you listeners, I'm here, you're here. We're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You, Me, Empathy.